But as I'm talking to you, there are, lots of fighters feverishly rearming their weapons here. The man's going around saying, don't waste your weapons, wait until the jets fly above. We're going to move further forward to see what's happening, but I suspect there's some kind of offensive going on by the pro-Gaddafi forces, and for the first time they're using something other than mortars. It sounds like heavy artillery.
And Tony, Ras Al-Khaimah, as we know, is an oil export terminal. That's what it functions as. Do we know if it's still functioning as an oil export terminal?
Well, as you understand, most of the oil production is basically ground to a halt because of the current situation. There's no facilities that are really operating properly. At the moment, it's very hard to see what's going on there, but we can still see plumes of smoke. So when it was the one that was hit yesterday is still burning at the moment, although the flames and the smoke are not as intensive and concentrated as before. All right, thanks, Tony. Tony Bertley there, talking to us from Ras Al-Khaimah, where, as you heard, there is intense fire coming from pro-Gaddafi forces. Now, a London mansion owned by Saif Gaddafi, Colonel Gaddafi's son, has been occupied by a group of activists and squatters. The group, calling itself Topple the Tyrant, said it would stay until the house and other properties were returned to the Libyan people. Emma Hayward has more.
Well, this is the home of Saif Gaddafi, one of the sons of Muammar Gaddafi. So, in effect, this large house in this exclusive part of North London is, in effect, a Gaddafi family asset. It's worth around $15 million. We think it's got a sauna and a swimming pool inside. Now, those inside at the moment are from a group called Topple the Tyrants. They managed to get in earlier today. We don't know how, because we can only imagine that an exclusive house like this is heavily fortified. What they've done, they've put up these large banners calling for an end to President Gaddafi's regime in Libya. They say that this asset, this house, was gotten through ill-gotten gains, so it should be handed back to the Libyan people. Now, a short while ago, a group of Libyan men also arrived. They managed to get in through a window here. They said they won't damage the property while they're inside. They got up on the roof, and they've said that this house now belongs to the Libyan people and it should be handed back to them.
Côte d'Ivoire's cocoa industry has been ordered to get back to work or suffer the consequences. The disputed president, Laurent Gbagbo, wants them to resume exports and start earning money again, or their stock will be seized. Cocoa is a major income earner. The country is the world's leading cocoa producer, accounting for 40% of global supply. An export ban was imposed in January by Alassane Ouattara, the internationally recognized winner of November's presidential vote. The ban was aimed at cutting funding to Laurent Gbagbo, who is refusing to step down. Myanmar's annual Precious Gems Fair is underway. Officials say this year's event will be bigger than the one before, which raked in a record $1.4 billion. It's also an opportunity for the government to highlight its ruby industry. But what it won't be revealing is how children, some of them as young as 4, are being exploited to prop up production. Despite strict controls on the presence of foreign journalists, AlJazeera has managed to get access to some of these mines in Mogok region.
They are as young as 4 years old, cracking rocks in government-controlled mines, searching for one of the world's most precious jewels, the blood-red ruby. And this is how it all gets started. In the dark of night, dozens of miners take over property belonging to local farmers. They dig, hunting for the valuable gem. Armed men keep watch, leaving the rightful owners helpless to stop them.
We have been here the whole night trying to defend the land, but we can't control them. We won't get any compensation, and the police encourage this.
Supervising the operation is the local police chief and his army counterpart. Once rubies are found, the land is officially claimed by the state. We filmed the operation secretly, as foreigners are forbidden from visiting the area. The entire region of Mogok is off limits to outsiders. Its mines provide 90% of the world's ruby supply, and the government wields complete control. Locals who used to own property here often end up as virtual slaves to the ruby trade. It is hard, back-breaking work, and guards ensure the gems they do find are handed over. This man, a supervisor, tells us people here are given less than $1.50 a day for their efforts. We visit several mines, and in each are the elderly and more children.
$216 US.
And
ruby, yellow gold.
where's the rubies from? Mogok?
Mogo ruby, natural stone.
Natural stone. Here is where much of the jewels end up, government-run emporiums in the country's capital. Despite sanctions last year, the state earned a record $1.67 billion. It's been a good haul on this day. Rubies now destined for international markets, with profits these workers will never see. Al Jazeera, Mogok, Myanmar.
Well, Ben Rogers is a human rights activist and the author of a book on Myanmar's leader, Than Shwe. He joins me now from London. Mr. Rogers, thanks for your time. When we look at what is going on in Myanmar, among various other human rights abuses, we see children being exploited to mine rubies, which are sold on the international market. Is there any pressure that could be brought upon Myanmar's leaders to stop this practice? Does the international community have any kind of leverage?
Yes, I believe the international community does have leverage, and the problem is it hasn't really been using the leverage that it has. What we advocate is more targeted sanctions, not blanket sanctions, but targeted sanctions that would actually hit the sectors that benefit the generals and don't benefit the people, actually result in the exploitation of the people, such as the gems and mining sectors and also the oil and gas sectors. And I think if we had more carefully targeted sanctions as well as other forms of international pressure, we might begin to see some change in Burma.
Now, when you talk about targeted sanctions, shouldn't the people who are buying these gems also be targeted?
Yes, I believe they should. There are provisions in the European Union's common position on Burma that prohibit the import of gems into Europe. The problem is that those provisions have not been properly implemented, and it's still possible to import and trade gems from Burma in Europe, even though EU law says it's not.
Now, we're talking about a pretty large sum of money that these gems earn for the regime there in Myanmar, something like $1.5 billion. Where's all that money going?
Essentially, it's going to bolster both the generals' personal wealth and the military. This regime spends almost 50% of its budget on the military and less than $1 per person per year on health and education combined. So the people are certainly not benefiting from investment. The generals and the military are, and the money that's not invested directly in the military is often siphoned off by the generals into personal offshore bank accounts, particularly in Singapore, and that's been quite well documented now.
And it would appear that the Myanmar regime is flouting these sanctions provisions quite openly. I mean, they're having a trade fair right now. Are most of these gems going to countries in Asia?
I think they're going all over the world. Certainly neighbouring countries like China are major investors in both the gems sector and other sectors of Burma's economy. But as I said earlier, some are coming into Europe, despite the European Union's ban on the import of gems.
Okay, Mr. Rogers, thank you for joining us. Republican lawmakers